Hello everyone, we are live. This is the live talk show, The Secret to Creating Confident Kids. And we've got our special guest, Lisa Cooke, with us today. We're going to kickstart in about a minute's time. We're just waiting for people to arrive. So listen to the music in the background and we'll start in a little while. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining us in the live talk show, The Secret to Creating Confident Kids. Today we have a special guest, Lisa Cooke, who is come here to tell us a lot more about what she does in the mental health sector, as well as more about her company, Therafit. Okay. So I think we will get started. I think people are live. We are streaming on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. So please go to whatever is more convenient to you. And you can listen to that whilst you're having your lunch or have it on in the background whilst you're working. Okay. So thank you first, Lisa, for being on the show. Just so everyone knows, I met Lisa at the beginning of the year at a business conference, and I was blown away then by what she did, and I was always keen to keep in contact with her. So I dropped her an email and said, would you like to come on the show? And she jumped at the opportunity. I said, of course. So here she is. Thank you, Lisa, for coming. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Hi everybody, my name is Lisa Cooke. I'm a counsellor therapist with children and young people, and I have been a therapist with children for about 11 years now. Part of my work as well has been with children in care over years, so very complex children with quite complex trauma, quite a lot of underlying mental health issues, as well as social problems, relationship problems. And in that time, what I realised is that lots of children, young people, young adults use exercise as a way sometimes to cope with feelings and help regulate their feelings and emotions because it releases endorphins in the body. However, what I realised was something missing is that was a coping strategy to helping their mental health, but it didn't actually solve the problems that were lying underneath. I've always exercised from being young myself and realised that, yeah, it does really help. But as a child myself, I was a child who was the different one, the one who was bullied for being different, the one who was different. And I will say I was known as the fat child in the year. And from the age of about 6 to about 14, I would explain it as quite tortured by children and young people for being different, for being me. And I learnt my own coping strategies, and one was exercise. But I knew underneath there was always still lying underneath the real root cause of it was how I felt, and never really got help for that. I found my own ways to cope with it. Because I had a really good family who were very supportive, I was okay to do that. But lots of children and young people don't have that. And therefore, they don't know how to cope with their feelings and emotions. They don't know how to express their feelings and emotions. They can't articulate their feelings and emotions because they don't have the emotional literacy or words to express how they feel. So what I started to realize is there needs to be something that's a little bit different, because there's quite a lot of stigma around mental health. Actually going to see someone to talk about your feelings, especially in the younger generation, So it's like, well, how can we make this different? How can it be more innovative? And I looked at combining exercise and therapy together because I'm a personal trainer too. So it was like, how good would this be if we can get children to understand the mind and body connection rather than just think, I exercise to feel a bit better. Why are we not looking at the root cause underneath? Why are we not fixing them both together? So that's why I, after many years of working for other organisations, I'm working with lots of different children, young people and adults, thought I need to do something about this. I need to launch my own sort of spin on mental health and well-being. And therefore I launched Therafit, my own company. And that combines the therapy and the fitness. I do counselling alone and therapy alone with lots of young children, but there are quite a lot who, as we develop through therapy, really like to bring in the Therafit and really understand and heal themselves as one. Rather than using exercise as a coping strategy, it's part of what I do to help my mental health and to understand how I feel and to express my feelings in a positive way and understand them. So that's where I came from with regards to my own company and the Therafit idea.
That's quite a journey, and I can see how it all connects. Can we go back a little bit, right back to the child, you as a child, just so that parents who might be listening or people who work with children can just relate to the issues that some children are having in relation to identity. So can you go right back to that bit for a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, I'll talk about myself. I'm quite open and free to talk about me. As from the age of 6, I was like the bonny child in the class, and my parents were very, very supportive parents. I was securely brought up in terms of attachment style. Home life was great, but because I was different, because I wasn't stereotypical, I carried weight. I also have a neck condition of disability in my neck and was different. Children used to target that. It was funny. It was fun to make fun of other people. You know, we see this in children, but it's because children don't actually understand and haven't been educated necessarily, and that it's okay to be you and it's okay to be different. So they would say things, they would say mean words, and to them it probably was nothing because young children, you know, don't necessarily understand that. But to me, that conditioned me to feel that I wasn't good enough, that I was different, that nobody'd ever liked me for who I was, that body, you know, the outside is what mattered, not the heart that was lay inside. And I was fortunate enough to not develop eating disorders and body dysmorphia and things that could have developed from that in reality, because I had a supportive family who would support me with that and helped my self-esteem and confidence. But if I didn't have that support from family and close friends, then I don't honestly know if I would be like other children that I deal with day in, day out, who self-worth is that low because of how they've been conditioned as a child and begun to believe that they are that certain way, that I wouldn't necessarily have ended up the way I did. So as I developed into my teenage years, got to about 14-ish, and so obviously became more aware of my own body at that time as well. Started to exercise. A cousin of mine was actually a fitness professional at the time, and she was like, come to the gym with me, I'll do some classes with you. That's how I got into exercise. But I didn't obsess with it. It wasn't that I obsessed with it. It was I noticed my body changing in a positive way, not a negative way. I begun to recognize how it made me feel, and therefore I begun to change how my whole image changed. You know, and I will say that I remember these children as teenagers who had, I would describe it as, tortured me for being different all my life. That's how it felt. It's like you go into a room, you'd be made fun of. You'd be the one that everybody would call names in a room full of 30 people. But I learned to use humour. I learned to laugh it off. I learned that that was the way to do it. But underneath, I was hurting, massively, massively hurting. Because it was like, well, I'm just me. I'm just because I'm different on the outside doesn't mean I'm not a good person. But that's how you were conditioned to believe you were. But as I started to lose weight and as I started to like develop a different body image, it was unbelievable how many of them people who used to terror me would come over going, oh my God, you're so nice, you're so this. And it was all just because of how I looked. I was that same person inside. I've not changed. I was still Lisa. And the Lisa that I am today, I was still then. But it just shows how society and now, and even more now with social media, how much the way you look, it affects people's mental health and well-being, and how stigmatizing it is if you don't look a certain way. And I see that more, and I'm dealing a lot more now with specifically, I mean, I've had eating disorders starting as young as 5 or 6, and body dysmorphia, in the work that I've done. And again, a lot of it does come down to what they're seeing on social media, a lot of things on social media and press and things. And it's sad. It's really, really sad. So for parents that are here and maybe on here today, is what I would advise if I was working with a child in the same situation as me is to love, nurture them. Listen to them to understand. Don't just listen. If your child is behaving in a negative way, if the behavior seems to be disruptive, if the behavior seems to be passive, they're telling you something. They're not doing that because they're just being ignorant or they're being naughty. The feelings inside of them are hurting in some way, and the behavior is what is telling you that. Children express how they feel and how they behave because they don't have the cognitive abilities to tell you. So it comes out in the behavior. So what I would recommend to parents is when you see your child behaving in a way that's different, don't shout at them. Don't be negative and put them down. Ask them, I can tell that you're not feeling so well today. I noticed that you've been doing this and this isn't like you. I wonder what's actually going on. And give them the permission to tell you, but listen to understand. And there'll be keys in there that tell you, something's going on for my little one at the moment, because I've had seen life-changing, complete life-changing experience for some clients. There's a particular client that I can talk about if you want me to talk about that now, Trevor.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah. Some case studies would be great.
Was a 17-year-old boy. I was called in because literally he'd absolutely gone missing for 4 days. They couldn't find him anywhere. He was a child who was in care, but had been in care with the same foster family for years. So very much had stability from once he moved out of his parental home at the age of 6. But the damage that had been done in them 6 years was horrific. And people think, oh, well, they've had stability since then, they should be okay. Absolutely not. The conditions that they've got from being a child, their attachment, their view of themselves, the world and the others, is developed very, very young, and that carries through. So this young boy had gone missing. They'd found him, and he tried to just sabotage his whole life by taking every drug, every bit of alcohol he possibly could, just went on like this bender weekend, as they would call it, and didn't care about anything or anyone. And I was called in really at a crisis to say, Lisa, can you work with this young man? That young man now, 6 months later, we've not long finished working together. It's like looking at a different child completely, a different young man. He's now got a job. He finished college. He did all his college work. He got it done. He's absolutely happy. His family can't believe the difference in him, because they're saying to me, like, he's so happy. He's in all aspects of his life now. And his words are, when we speak to him, is, you listened. You listened. You listened to me to understand me. And that's all I needed. And that is exactly what I did. I remember the first session with him. He literally had only met me once. And it was one of the most sort of quickly attached therapy sessions, because, you know, it takes a few sessions to sometimes like build a relationship with someone. And yeah, he was desperately needed. That's what he wanted. He needed someone to talk to. And I literally remember him just sobbing the whole first session. And I must have said about 10 words, but that was enough for him to felt understood. That young man now wants to give back to my company. He says he wants to help out with other children. He wants to spread the story. He wants them to believe that talking is helpful. He wants to give his time to my company voluntarily now, because he's experienced something so positive from just having that experience. But what we did do as well is, at first it was talking, it was allowing him to have that safe relationship. Then we would go out, because I have a camper van, which is a mobile therapy room. I particularly brought that to break the stigma of a clinical environment for therapy. It's still safe, it's still protected, it's still a room, but it's more quirky, it's more accessible. They can come to their favourite place and sit in the van. They can sit on the front of their house if they wanted to in the van. You know, it's just a different way. It's breaking that stigma. It's breaking that clinical barrier that walking in a room in a clinical environment. And it's really, really worked, because more children are coming on faster with therapy. But with him particularly, down the line, we started to do the exercise and therapy, because he really loved rugby, he really loved exercise. So therefore, for him, it was absolutely ideal, because sometimes when our mental health is not very good and we're feeling low, we stop doing the things that we love because it's too much effort. And he'd stopped doing things he liked, but by getting his mind better, he was then able to get his body better, but he was then able to connect the physical feelings he was feeling. He was able to put words to it and understanding to it, because we connected them together, rather than it just being, I feel this way and I don't know why. He knew and he understood why. Now he's back playing his rugby. He's in tournaments. He's just a highly spirited young man. And that story will stay with me, because he was at self-sabotage. He just didn't want to be here anymore. He just had enough of life. But if someone happened to listen to him, to understand and not judge, would his life be like that now? I don't know. Yeah. So he's just someone that I think is really key to show how this can really, really help. Yeah.
It's amazing. And I think, you know, I mean, I myself can understand, as well as many other people, you know, being in a situation where you don't actually fit the norm and you stand out. And standing out as a kid is such a terrifying thing, because everybody just wants to fit in. And if it's impossible for you to fit in for whatever reason that might be, it's quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it takes quite a strain. It's amazing to hear the story from your client, and it's amazing to see how somebody who really needed the help went through the process and came out the other end. That's really amazing. Okay.
And it is what you said, Trevor, about feeling different, and in teenage years, very much more teenage years than what sort of primary years. That feeling different in teenagers, where you're developing your personality, really. You're developing your identity. You know, everything's about friendship and fitting in and feeling like you belong to friends, pulling away from parents a little bit and feeling like you belong. And actually, when you don't feel like you belong anywhere because everybody's saying you're different, it's really, really difficult. And, you know, it takes a lot of resilience and strength to be able to get through that part of your life when that's not happening. But what I'm saying, when I talk about myself, because I had a good upbringing I was taught resilience. I was taught how to get myself through. I was fortunate to be able to get through healthily. But there's so many children and young people out there who don't have that. who don't have that stable upbringing and support, and therefore it's absolutely terrifying to them. You know, they see themselves as negative, they see the world as negative, they see people as negative, and it can be, you know, life changing for them in that time. So it's just being mindful of that when we're working with children and young people.
Yeah, I think some people who unfortunately didn't get the help, although it might not have had a dramatic negative ending, they still take it into their adult life.
Yeah.
And you know, it can cause havoc later on down the line.
And you've just hit something there with me. Is my initial training, because when you're trained to be a counsellor, is with adults. And what I realised in a very, very short time was I am dealing with children in adults' bodies here. I'm dealing with children who were never helped, who never got that support when they were younger with the mental health to understand themselves. So, whoa. And that is when I decided I wanted to go and work more with children, because it is more challenging working with children because of emotional development. I really wanted to do that because I wanted to stop as much as I could more people getting to these adults who were really, really hurt and damaged in lots of ways and struggled through life in the 30s, 40s and still struggling, 50s, 60s even still struggling. I wanted to try and target and be around the young ones to help them not get to that point. And that's what really with what you've just said there, that is exactly what I saw. I saw broken children in adults' bodies who didn't know what to do, didn't know how to regulate their emotions and feelings, didn't know how to build positive relationships, because their early childhood hadn't been like very positive, really. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that. I think I resonate with a lot of that, and I think, you know, like many people listening, I definitely had issues from my childhood. I didn't actually go to a therapist and figure out, because therapy wasn't a thing when I was a kid. I mean, it was, but it wasn't I didn't even know the word therapy when I was a kid. It wasn't until I was an adult that I realized people went to therapy, and then I thought it was just Americans, you know. Really heard about it in the UK. It was like all these Americans go to therapy, but actually, as we know, it's a really important thing. I mean, you know, if you're struggling, you need to speak to someone, you know.
Well, it's like
have someone like yourself.
Mental health stigma. You know, there hasn't been enough education in previous years around mental health, and it's no different. If we hurt our leg and we go to a doctor, if we hurt our leg, we're gonna get it fixed, aren't we? We're not gonna walk around or try to walk around or attempt to get through life with a broken leg, because it just gets worse. We go, we take advice, we get help. If we need 6 months treatment, we have 6 months treatment. So why is it if our mind's sick, which is one of the biggest organs in our body that controls everything about us, why is it that we don't get help for that? And it's because of the societal stigma. It's because people judge, oh, the crazy, or this lack of understanding. It's lack of education around mental health and acceptance of it. And the thing is, the mind is an amazing machine in my eyes, and it controls everything. And if the mind is right, the body's going to feel right. And you know, we need to break this stigma, and that is what my mission is to do, is to try and help break the stigma, improve the mental health system around mental health and the support for mental health, and making it more accessible and understood. Because again, I do feel like there's people that's been let down.
Let's talk a bit more about stigma of mental health. I know that it's a real issue with the mental health system at the moment, and you know, there's a lot of change that's happening. There's a lot that needs to be changed. I'm not a professional, so I'm not going to talk about it. But do you want to address that area?
I mean, at the moment, as I say, I'm not in any way, you know, in ways like putting the NHS system down or anything like that. We need a system. But waiting lists now are just unbelievable. You've got children, adults and young people waiting 9 months to have any mental health support or counselling or treatment on the NHS. And in 9 months, the devastating effects that could have on a person while they're waiting is immense. And, you know, I've had so many people, because I'm at the moment a private therapist, come and saying, please, will you see my child? We're desperate. We can't wait 9 months. We know that the self-harming, the you know, attempting suicide, they're not going to school, they're frightened, they're scared. And it's like the system is letting these children and young people down as well as adults. And it's not necessarily the workers in the NHS, that's not what I'm saying, because it's not their fault. And, you know, they're only offering 6 to 8 sessions. Well, you know, when I'm dealing with, you know, children, young people who have, say, for instance, had 8-9 years of like poor mental health, abuse, whatever situation they've been in reality, in 6 sessions, you're not going to make right all what is the damage that has been done to that child. It might take 6 sessions for that child to trust you. You know, they might have trust issues. They might not trust adults because they've been hurt by adults. They've been let down by adults. So therefore, it's going to take more than 6 hours, 6 sessions to actually even build a relationship with some of these young people. And therefore, you know, I have had conversations with heads of departments and said, okay, you know, I'm a mental health professional here. If I was a doctor and this person had a broken leg and I said they needed 6 months treatment, you'd give them that 6 months treatment, wouldn't you? Yeah, we would. Well, why is it you're not listening to the mental health professionals who are dealing day in, day out with these young people, with these adults? Why are we being told 6 weeks? Actually, we know what they need. You know, they may need 6 to 12 months of therapy and heal. Yeah, instead of having 6 sessions and coming back in another 3 months because they wasn't worked. And this is where then it gives a negative opinion on likes of therapies and counselling because people haven't had enough. And that's where sometimes, you know, you do see the system is letting down people, and that's where it's really, really difficult. And therefore, you know, mental health is getting worse because they're having to wait these lengths of times, where if actually they could have treatment within a few weeks of being, you know, identified, that would have such a better impact on these lives.
Okay. Yeah, I agree totally. Let's rewind a little bit. I'm just picking up on things that you've said that are quite interesting. We talked a little bit about social media, and I know with teens it's a real big thing. It's the world we live in, but there are effects to it, and I don't really want a good bad debate. We're way beyond that. That was like 10 years ago. You know, it's not even worth debating that. I'm just more interested in the whole identity issue, being part of the crowd and social media, and it's very hard to switch on the news and not get a social media story pop up that has a negative effect on somebody's life. So, you know, I think there was one on LinkedIn this week, which was a bit traumatic, and they're quite common now, unfortunately. Do you want to address that a little bit?
I mean, in regards to social media, it can be really positive. If the right message is delivered in the right way, it can really help beat the stigma if it is marketed and if it's done in the right way. But like you said, unfortunately, there's so much negative out there that can outweigh that positive. And that's where it's really difficult, because how do they manage that? How's that, like, you know, manage that doesn't happen? It's really difficult because it's such a huge system, isn't it? In the terms of when I talk about social media with children and young people, it's the fact that actually bullying doesn't stop when they go home. So for instance, if they're being bullied at school, when I was younger, I'd come home and I was safe, till I went to school the next day, and then the same thing would start. But now phones, social media, everything, that carries on, but the children are hooked into those things. So they feel if they don't go on social media, if they don't go on Facebook, they don't go on Snapchat, Instagram, you know, TikTok, and keep up and stay in the groups, they'll get bullied even more. Well, where have you been? What have you been doing? Why have you not been doing that? You know, and that's where it's really, really hard for these children and young people, because there's no escape from that. And unfortunately, what I do notice a lot of as well is it's sometimes easier for bullies because they can hide behind the social media. They're hiding behind the platform. So, you know, they can pretend they're someone that they're not, and therefore when they go into the real world, they're not presented as that bully, and that's a difficulty. And I'm finding a lot of that with children and young people as well, is that, you know, there's people targeting people, but they're not saying who they truly are, so therefore they're hiding, the bully's hidden. But then also with social media as well, is we've got a society now that doesn't socialize in the ways we're meant to as human beings. We're meant to have interaction and socialize. A lot of socialization is now over obviously media and platforms. And again, you're not really being your true self over those platforms. You know, you can hide your body language, you can hide who you are. Lots of people write and text easier than actually saying it in words. So it's taken away a lot of socialization. So therefore, these children find that it's difficult to communicate. It's difficult to have social interactions. They don't know how to be in social groups because, yeah, they can just about manage at school, but then outside of that, it's like frightening for them, because you can be anything behind a screen. And that's what we're noticing a lot of, again, with these generations coming through, is the social aspect of life is more difficult. More social anxiety.
What can we do to help the kids who are kind of stuck in this social media cycle? What can we do? Let's say from a parent's point of view, maybe, or let's start with the parents. From a parent's point of view, what can we do?
I mean, it's difficult as parents because, again, it depends on your relationship with your children, but it's limiting the time. It's encouraging family social time at home. Trying to give them the time off social media, which I know is a challenge. Don't get me wrong, I understand completely, because children are hooked to the phones. But it's about giving them more fun things to do that aren't involving a phone, aren't involving social media, like getting out into nature, active. You know, having those activities is really, really key, because again, you know, as humans and social animals, we should be out more with nature. When we were children, well, I was a child, I was out in the woods all the time, you know, building dens, making things. You know, you're out with your friends, you didn't have a phone. That's what we are actually made to do. But as we're developing as a you know, humans do, it's all getting into technology and less of the outside. And if we really go back into evolution and we think of our oldest part, our brain, the amygdala, your fight, or freeze, that was the only part of the brain we had many years ago, because we were outside, we were in nature, and all we had to do was survive. If we had to kill a bear and it was coming towards us, you know, we were outside, we were connecting with nature, we were connecting with other animals. Where now, there's not very much of that going on, and that's where we're not made as humans for that. So therefore, it's really, really difficult. So I would advise parents to have a routine with the children, to, you know, try. I know it's hard because I know teens don't want to feel different and left out, but try not to let them have the phone too late in the room, go into bed. Try to keep a good routine, but be fair with the routine. Be fair, not taking it off them completely. Try and put outdoor family time into your week, socializing time, because this is what is definitely lacking in the generations that we're dealing with at the moment. I remember. I remember.
We're in a generation where it's quite insular, isn't it? Where we kind of do our own thing, but on our own, and communicate with people who aren't in the same room as us. So I used to laugh. I remember the early days of social media. I used to laugh at that because, you know, I'll be out with my friends in the bar or a cafe or something, and there'll be people around with their early versions of the phones, and I would laugh thinking, you know what they're doing. But now everyone's doing it, including me. You know, I have to remind myself to actually, I've got people around me, maybe don't look at my phone. You know.
And it's become like this norm, hasn't it? That it's wrong if you don't look at your phone. It's wrong if you don't have a phone. Actually, when you think back years ago, it was a luxury if we had a phone. It was like, wow. But now it's like wrong if you don't have one. And I think that's where Therafit really helps, because when I'm working with clients, we do exercise outside. So we're talking, we're socializing, we're helping the mind, we're connecting the body, we're connecting the nature, and we're doing it all and letting them express like who they really are. And I remember working with a teenager, and I said, right, we're going to play in the mud today, and we're going to play in sand, we're going to play in like, what? I said, yeah, you've not done it as a child. This is what's missing. You need to do this. And the barrier was up. I'm not doing that. I'm like a child. But do you know what? When they did it, they absolutely loved it. And they were like, wow, that was amazing. And it's what they needed. And we did that for a good few sessions. And again, you know, we're doing fitness with it, but we're also feeling and expressing and understanding what things felt like, how it made them feel inside. When they got wet, what does it feel like? Because again, that's all to do with feelings and emotional regulation and understanding. And I remember this kid saying to me, and I think he was 15. I remember him saying, I can't believe I did that. It was the best thing he ever did, because it really helped me. And it's like, you know, you're never too old to play. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like myself, I did a Total Warrior this weekend. I was dreading it. Mud and water were my worst thing. But I absolutely got to say I loved every single minute of it, and I had a smile on my face the whole way through. Because in reality, I was being like a kid back in the woods, in the mud, in the water, in the mess. And, you know, I'm an adult. And it's just remembering that it's okay to have fun. And a lot of young people now are like, how can I put it, all before the time. Think it's childish to play and you shouldn't be playing with that. Yeah, you should. You know, that's what you're meant to do. And when they're allowed to do that play in a safe environment where no one's going to judge them, because it's just me and them, and they know that I'm not judgmental, it's amazing how they come on. Yeah. And obviously we do play with younger children, but when you see it in like the teenagers who've got the barrier up, I'm like, I'm not doing that, I'm too cool for that. And you see the difference in them, it's lovely. You know, it's really nice to see. But again, that's like the nature, the mind and the body. So you're connecting the mind, you're connecting them with the feelings and emotions and the physical sensations in the body. But then you're out with nature, so you're grounding them, and all the connection together really does see a difference in moving forward.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a big question. It's a question of the show. So in your opinion, what is the secret to creating confident kids?
Creating confident kids, listening to them, understanding them, encouraging them, and believing in them so that they believe in themselves. But the biggest key is listen to the children. Yeah, listen to them, because if you listen to them to understand, they'll understand themselves, they'll feel validated, they'll feel they're believed in, and therefore they'll believe in themselves and be confident kids. Because I look back to my childhood, no matter what everybody else was saying to me, you know, the key people in my life believed in me, they encouraged me, they understood, they listened, and that's what helped me through. So from personal experience, I became a confident child, even though I was going through that hell, because that's how I would describe it, because the key people in my life helped me through that. Now, if my parents and my brother and my aunties, uncles, immediate family and very good friends hadn't been like that, how would I have seen myself? Yeah. And what I've realized is my role as a therapist now is to be that one key person in that child's life who doesn't judge, who listens, who believes, and who helps to heal those unresolved beliefs basically from early childhood. And that's what like my role as therapist with a lot of the young people I work with is to do, is to help them feel validated, believe in themselves again, and feel that they can trust. And that's where I see confidence rise in those children, because that particular young man that I've mentioned, his words were to me only a few weeks ago, his parents were saying, like, why did you suddenly change? And his words were, it was something Lisa said to me before Christmas, and it made me believe that I was worthy and I was a good person and I wasn't what I thought I was. Now, I still don't know what them words were. Don't ask me, because I really don't know. I've never been told. but that's shown his confidence because he'd seen his worth came from just that one experience. Yeah. Which was really lovely to see. Yeah.
So what do you have coming up with the work that you do at the moment that you might want to tell people about?
Okay, what I've decided to do is in my local area, I'm from like St. Helens, Merseyside area, is I believe there's like something missing in the holidays for children around like supporting their well-being, mental health, educating still on feelings and emotions. So I've launched Therafit Summer Camp, which includes well-being and fitness. So within that summer camp, we talk about a feeling, we explore a feeling, we do a creative activity around the feeling, and then we do a physical activity to express and feel the feeling. And then we talk about what that feeling was like and help the emotional literacy of young people, as well as doing other creative activities and general fun stuff throughout the summer. So I've recently launched that in the local area over the summer. So watch this space, hope that takes off well and we can help a lot of young people, because not all young people want to do sports over the summer, and most summer camps are around sports and activities. Some children aren't into sports, they're more into creative activities. So I've tried to be inclusive to all of that, but including mental health and well-being within that to help them, and especially those children who would find transition hard. So transition of class to class, transition from junior school to high school. The last week we are doing quite a lot around that transition and helping them cope with change and transition, which hopefully will help parents with children's feelings and emotions at that time. So that's something that I'm recently launched, and just looking at a different look on summer for children. But I will be looking to do webinars and educational webinars around different areas of mental health. So is there anybody interested in any specific areas of mental health that they'd like sort of more understanding around, and please let Trevor know, and I will look to develop those, because it is about education, it is about sharing experiences, it is about being real and breaking the stigma. And the more we understand, the more we can help each other and the more we can make that difference. Yeah.
Brilliant. Where should they go? We've got a chat. I'm not sure if you can type into comments. If you can, type it into comments. If not, then type it into private chat and I'll copy it over into comments.
Okay.
So where should they go? A URL or anything?
I have Therafit UK website, which will be getting updated with this information. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, Therafit Mental Health. If you'd like to follow me on there as well. And for the summer camps, on one of the pages we have for just the summer camps is Therafit holiday camps. If there's anyone on here whose children are in the local area, they'd like to come and join us for a day or two, or maybe the whole holidays, then please, let me know. Also, as well, if anybody's looking for counselling for their children or yourselves, because I can do adults as well, and you feel that, you know what, I might need a little bit of help and support, by all means contact me, because I can do Zoom therapy as well as the Therafit we're one-to-one. Is that okay?
That's brilliant.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
It's been really insightful, and it's great to kind of just hear more about the work that you do. I knew you did great work because we had this conversation a long time ago now over coffee. So it's good to actually find out a bit more about what you do and to tell the world what you do, or the small community, I would say.
Yeah.
At the moment, the world eventually, but the small community at the moment. It's been amazing. Thank you very much for telling us your story, the wonderful stuff you're doing, and anybody who wants to get in contact with it, if you look at the information that we sent out, there should be links on there. Just scroll down. You should find either a website link. She's on Facebook as well, so just type in Therafit. Is it Therafit UK or Therafit?
Therafit UK, yeah.
Therafit UK, and she should pop up, and you can join her there and find out more information. This has been brilliant. Thank you everyone for being here for episode 5 of The Secret to Creating Confident Kids. I hope you've got some value from this. I know I have, definitely as a parent. Yeah, I'll be putting a lot of the things you said into action, like listening. Yeah, let's just say sometimes it's very hard not to be angry at your kids. So I think I'll just bite my tongue.
Not fully.
Yeah, I know you've just broken the TV, but what's going on? Yeah, I'm myself, like many other people, I think we need to listen more. So I will take that advice and put that into practice straight away. So thank you very much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone else for joining us. This will go out as a replay pretty much as soon as it processes after this. So if you've just caught the ending of it, just wait a little while and you'll be able to watch the whole thing. It's on Facebook, it's on LinkedIn, and it's also on YouTube now. So it will always be on YouTube regardless. So if you miss it and you want to catch up on it, or if Lisa said something in particular you can't quite remember and you want to go back, just jump onto YouTube and you should find it. Just follow the links. Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day, and I'll catch up with you again next week with another amazing guest, which I'll tell you about shortly. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.